Everyone, welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. Today with us, we have Martin Popiel. He's a CPA and founder at Modern CPA firm. Martin, welcome to the pod. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Modern CPA firm?
Appreciate you for having me on, Charles. Martin. I'm a CPA. A few years ago, I started Modern CPA firm, which is basically a digital marketing agency specifically for accounting firms. So I left the industry about 2 years ago, and now I've fully committed to servicing firm owners.
And you're a nomad. So where are you based at? You're in Tulum, right?
Yes, right now I'm currently in Tulum.
Since how long have you been there, and do you plan on committing to the digital nomad journey and keep on traveling?
Yeah, I mean, that was like one of the main motives to get into the entrepreneurial space, is to have that kind of like freedom to travel. So last year I was living in Thailand for a few months. This year I got to Mexico in January, so I'm going to stay here till May. I'm originally from Canada, so I'm just trying to avoid the winter weather every year.
Yeah, I get more vitamin D, which is a beautiful
Absolutely.
solution. Vitamin D is like one of these vitamins that are very much underrated in us men. It helps with testosterone and so forth. And I think that people that are not like biohacking in this day and age, especially when you play in the entrepreneur world that is very competitive, I think you're kind of missing out. So that's such an underrated factor. And yeah, obviously freezing your ass off every day, I mean, there's benefits to the cold, but yeah, the not having the sun's kind of depressing, especially when the sun goes down at 5, not sure, or 4, like you're not even done with your work day and everything gets dark. So fully understand you on that. What's your
Definitely.
background? You've been a dual sport athlete, as you mentioned. Like, where did you get there?
Yeah, so it was an interesting journey. So yeah, in university, I played basketball and football, and I was kind of I was always intrigued by entrepreneurship, but there wasn't like a conventional route, especially when you go to university. So I studied finance, then I ended up working at Deloitte and in the audit department, and I got my CPA. Part of it was, to just make sure I had like some sort of safety net, coming out of university. But after I got my designation, after a few years, I was kind of evaluating my options. Typically, after like the 3-4 year mark, you usually either go into industry or you gun it for partner. But none of the options were really sitting well with me, and I think like there was that ick, that just always told me, that voice to go for it, and especially at this age, it's like there's no better time to really kind of take that chance. So yeah, that's basically how I was kind of. I've also been intrigued with like the online space, with marketing, and I identified there was like a huge gap between accountants and how their minds work and how they operate, and their perception of marketing, and what's really out there. So that's where I saw the opportunity, and I just went for it.
So I saw some keywords of yours when it comes to describing this CPAs or this industry in particular: old school mentality, lack of innovation, inefficiency, long hours, and so forth. So I don't often target CPAs on my side, but I know that they are somewhat like this. Yesterday, I read a post about someone mentioning that software industry is going to be the first industry to be drastically affected by AI. Why? Because we are a bunch of early adopters and we like to automate stuff, right? Well, CPAs, accountants, lawyers, they move slower. So they will use more employees. They're not like that hot with technologies and so forth. For these reasons, I don't prospect these folks too much, although they're very much interesting, and I'm always interested on the number side of things and speaking with CPAs like you. So with that being said, Modern CPA firm, how are you guys prospecting these folks, knowing that they're mostly slow adopters, they're slow to kind of make decisions? And do these folks make up good clients? Do they stay with you guys for a while once you've hooked them up?
Yeah, yeah. So how would I would describe CPAs for the most part? First of all, the average CPA, and don't quote me on this, but I think the average age is 55. So you can tell obviously like how that's going to translate into their behavior. A lot of times like you'll hear like, I've been doing it this way for 20, 30 years, and why would I change now, and that type of thing. But a lot of the times what I've noticed is that they're problem aware, but not necessarily solution aware. And I think, especially when it comes to the marketing space, they could be quite skeptical. So they can be, and I could speak to that too. Like I was, although I was interested in it, I was pretty skeptical about marketing too. Like, especially when you take your university classes and you're learning about, the 4 Ps and everything like that, you're like, okay, this isn't really that useful. But when you really start to kind of connect the dots and being like, okay, so what pain points are you experiencing right now, and how can digital marketing resolve these types of things? That's where I kind of start to understand, especially being a CPA and them trusting CPAs more so than your average kind of marketer reaching out. Like, I'm sure every business owner has their inbox flooded with opportunities, but when you're hearing it from another CPA and they really understand your perspective and what you're going through, I think that's what really resonates with them. And I feel like that has much more of an impact when you're prospecting. So that's been super helpful for us. And then, getting to, again, like being able to connect the dots and understand what their pain points are, what are they experiencing, and how we're able to overcome those with the solutions that we offer.
Your main offering is branding. CPAs, I do think some of them understand branding to look crisp, professional, and so forth. So tell us about the initial pain points of a CPA, and how do you make them understand that branding is important and that branding can convert into dollars, whether it takes 2 months or 2 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when it comes to branding, I think the old way of branding is almost like reputation, and the industry, same with lawyers and doctors and dentists, historically has been referral based. So I think that's where they really buy into the branding is, okay, we keep our reputation, we offer high quality services for our referral partners, things like that. But I started to introduce the idea of more of an online brand, and the pain points that they commonly experience, it usually falls in one of two buckets. It's either low quality clients or staffing. And the reason because they have low quality clients is because they're referral based. So they're doing, their taxes for their cousin and their, cousin's aunt's brother, and now they're giving discounts, which is more of a burden on the staff. Now they're overworked. Now they don't have enough income to pay their staff. So you can kind of see how it trickles down. So that's where we promote and encourage to build a online pipeline. So build a pipeline of high quality leads that'll pay more for your time, and as a result, you get to pay more of your staff. Now you don't have to take on as many clients. So again, it's more of like a strategy, high level approach, rather than just being like, okay, we'll get you, a high quantity of leads, we'll stuff your inbox with hundreds of leads. In reality, there's no accounts that really struggle with leads. Is more about getting those, the ones that fit their client profile from their target industry, geography, things like that.
What's the price elasticity in the CPA niche, and how do you make them digest, say, like 5K per month? Like, how hard is it for you to justify these prices?
Yeah, like I think that takes some time, but it's funny because you kind of use the same strategies to them as you encourage them to use with their clients, right? If I'm like, okay, if you're serving every industry under the sun, and if you're, doing every service from tax prep to audit to bookkeeping to everything, now you're stretched thin. Now you're offering a variety of services to a variety of industries versus focusing on one industry, positioning yourself as an expert within that industry, and now you're able to justify higher pricing because you're offering custom solutions to that very specific audience, the same way we are, right? Like I could have done a marketing agency that's generic, and when you're first starting out, like it's tough to turn down clients from, let's say, other industries. But we really believed in the long-term vision of, we really want to figure out what is the best way to service accountants, and then that way in the long run, it's able to justify pricing, because if we're able to get them, let's say, to your example, like the 5K per month, if we're able to get you 3 clients at 5K per month, then it justifies that 5K retainer for us. So it's funny how that kind of works between how our approach works and then how we encourage them to do the same.
And it's kind of the nature of things. And your price point, typically, how much do you charge, and how long do you mention that it takes them to get their return on investment back, which is always a challenge as an agency?
Yeah, that's definitely the challenge. And I think especially, with CPAs being numbers focused, they don't really act on emotion. So you really have to justify that. But again, I think our experience as CPAs were able to convey that. So I would say, our price points, it depends on the packages. We offer a variety of packages, but usually between 2 to 4K a month. And they usually start to see results like we maybe 3-4 months down the line, depending on the strategies. Like, as you probably know, SEO is a much different horizon rather than cold email or LinkedIn outbound or something like that. So it really depends, but we really focus on that to make sure that they're getting their ROI, because I know they'll be checking the numbers on us eventually.
Have you thought of offering them cold outreach via LinkedIn or via email?
Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, that's basically so we do a blend of inbound. I'm a big believer in inbound, long term, but just building that pipeline, you get higher quality leads. It's an easier close rate, things like that. But I think as you mentioned, the challenge with an agency is you need to show results as soon as possible, because that's just the nature of it, right? Like, smooth onboarding process, making sure that they're seeing their return on investment. So we do a blend of both. Is basically we'll start out doing some outbound campaigns, get them some early wins, but then in the long run, we want to make sure that they have a sustainable strategy.
How will the recent ChatGPT 4 advancement will affect SEO, cold email, and LinkedIn outreach, and us agency owners anytime soon?
That's a good question, and I know you're a big AI guy, so I know you probably have a good answer to this. But I think like I think being more personal, like, it is obviously ChatGPT. The biggest selling point is it's super scalable, right? Like, you don't need as many copywriters. You could have all the scripts you want, all the content you want. So now I think it's more about being hyper targeted and really hitting the pain points and being as personal as possible. Like, we've all gotten LinkedIn messages that, hey, I saw we have mutual connections, blah blah blah. Or, hey, I'm a CPA, I know that you're struggling with staffing, or I know you're overworked, I know this is what's going on. So I think like ChatGPT definitely helps with generating that type of content faster, whether it is scripts or blog content, social content, whatever it is. But I think the way to stand out will be being more personal now, and being the hyper targeted, kind of like the niche marketing that we spoke on earlier.
You're working on a SaaS. Tell us a bit more about it and how it will fix these pain points.
Yeah, so basically the SaaS, it's got a variety of solutions, but one of the main things is it offers a marketplace for accountants. So it gives the opportunity for accountants to, almost like an Amazon, where they can kind of shop around and look for different marketing solutions for them. Staffing solutions is obviously a big one, so kind of connecting different staffing providers to different firm owners. There's also other elements that we include, a knowledge base that can help more of the earlier on firm owners to how to operate more effectively, how to build an appealing brand, things like that. And then lastly, community, so they can kind of base they can kind of network and understand, maybe some of the more experienced firm owners can share their experiences, trials and tribulations, things like that. So it's basically a growth hub for accounting firms, or I should say for firm owners to scale their firm.
So funny thing just happened. I just remembered that I ordered pizza yesterday and I left it out of the bag. I just wanted to share that. I felt the need to share that.
You left it out of the bag? What do you mean you
No,
left it out of
I
the bag?
ordered it from Rappi. You probably use it for as a
Yeah.
nomad as well. And I just remembered that. So it's bread. It's like a boulangerie, and yeah, I forgot the pizza in there. So I'm not sure if it'll still be good. Um, Fun fact: when you come to Oaxaca, yeah, there's this nice place called Boulang.
Definitely will
Related
try it out.
to a last question here. Well, I probably have two more, but um, do you think you'll have Deloitte as clients anytime soon?
Yeah, that's the top dog. So I don't think so, but never say never.
They have nice branding though. I
They
love
have,
Deloitte's
I think
branding.
yeah, I think I saw, I don't know if it was like a poll or a study, but they have, I think, the most powerful finance brand in the world, which I definitely believe. So I'm definitely, thankful to have experience there and, be a part of that.
What turn do you see yourself or your businesses taking? You've taken the SaaS turn, so that's also a turn that I'll be taking. My agency, we're becoming more and more of a PwC slash a Deloitte, which is a consulting firm, and fixing my client's problem. For example, their product offering, right? So telling them, hey, maybe you should focus on this niche, but also your product. Can you try to improve that or offer something better, Alex or Mosey style? What
Mhm.
direction do you see you and your businesses taking the next 3 years?
That's an interesting question. I think being more productized, like having more standardized solutions. So I think, one of the challenges early on as an agency owner is that, you're trying to cater to all different types of clients' needs and everything. You're testing out different strategies, like we touched on, with cold email and different tools and things like that. So in terms of, the growth hub that we're building is getting a more productized, proven process, where again it's like the same idea of like you order something on Amazon, you know what to expect, when you're going through the product description, the policies, everything that comes along with it. So that would be my goal. Is right now we're, kind of like, we're always reiterating there's always challenges with that, but I think getting it more productized and standardized would be the ultimate goal for myself.
Love it. If you would have to send a message to younger folks like you and I had to start somewhere and start their own business and decided not to follow the common 9 to 5 path, what would it be?
I think be open. Like I think it takes a certain perspective to, pursue the entrepreneurship route. And I think especially in the accounting industry, I think that, everyone knows accountants, like they're very conservative by the book. And I think just having open ears and really exploring, taking, having that spare time to read a few extra books, listen to a few extra podcasts to really broaden your perspective. And I think like, and part of that too, like as I was traveling, that's what became more of my value, is I got more perspectives of different areas of the world. And then that's why it became one of my top priorities. And I think in the accounting industry that's not necessarily possible, so you really begin to understand, what are your guiding principles, what kind of direction you want your life to go to. So definitely be open, definitely explore. And I one other thing I would recommend is like, don't get mentors from this exact same space as you. I think that's one of the biggest things, is if you go to a big firm, you're going to get matched up with a mentor that took the exact same path, and they're going to tell you to do the exact same things, versus getting a mentor or someone outside of the space. Now it's a complete different angle. So I think that's like one of the things that I learned too, is you know making sure that you're stepping out of your comfort zone in that sense.
Yeah, different perspectives. And for me personally, the digital nomad life is just one tools that I have in my arsenal to constantly think differently. Your environment's quite important, and when you change environments frequently enough and you go in completely different environments, your brain it adapts. And if there's one skill that humans need in this AI age, it's the capacity to adapt and constantly get out
Mm-hmm.
of your comfort zone and learn out new things and cultures. What do you think about this?
Definitely, definitely. I always say this one thing. I believe a comfort zone is always dynamic. It's either shrinking or expanding. So I always try to make myself, if I'm staying in the same situation for months, turns into years, your comfort zone begins to shrink that much more. So for me personally, I always try to throw myself in different types of situations, throw yourself, go to another country for a few months, learn new skills, something. So it's always expanding, because otherwise, like your confidence and you don't believe in your capabilities when you're staying in the same spot for a long time. So that's one thing that I really prioritize, is get out of the comfort zone, throw yourself in the fire, throw yourself in the deep end, all the different types of sayings. But I'm a big believer in that.
And as a finance guy, do you believe that buying a house is a good investment? Well, I mean, you're more than a finance guy, you're also an entrepreneur. So what do you think about that?
I'm gonna have a hot take on this one, but I think I'm from Toronto, and the housing market there is crazy, and I think it's just an ideology, like a Western ideology, to own a house. I got something of my own, and I understand that like it's an asset and whatever, but I think it kind of comes with what I was saying earlier of broadening your perspective. Like there's other ways to other assets to get. There's obviously stocks, crypto, businesses, buying other businesses, things like that. And I think even when you understand the rest of the world, like you're like I think in Switzerland, for example, I think there's only, again, don't quote me on this, but I think there's only like 34% home ownership, right? And they have a complete different approach and culture to it, rather than the American dream of I need a house, and this is my true calling and something like that. So I know that's a bit of a hot take, but I'm not buying into the whole you need a house, at least like as one of your first options.
Yeah, if I would get a house, it would be on a life quality basis, and the ROI would mostly be from me having better energy and having all my tools in one place rather than being a financial tools. Because yes, as entrepreneurs, we have better options. For Switzerland, the price of ownership is extremely high. I remember renting a very basic normal Airbnb for $300 a night, and normal apartment when I was on a connection flight there. So yeah, definitely high prices. And your hot take, I agree with it. We're in the same boat. I would add two other things to that, and these are even more controversial, but since we're at it, let's do it. The first one is that
Let's keep it
Airbnb is
going.
going to deploy a very interesting platform for nomads, which includes fractional ownership. A guy actually sent me a link recently. I think he's in Tulum too. I might connect you together. And it was, yeah, fractional ownership, right? I replied to him that it was interesting. I wasn't sure like if it made sense, for example, to buy 10% of a property and stay there like part-time of the year. But there will be like more of these innovative solutions. And three, the most controversial one is that I believe that $500 home is going to exist in less than 10 years from now. Not only because of the advances in AI, but when you think about it, you can dig a hole in the ground and you can have a machine that through like just melting the ground can create solid walls and so forth, and can be a bot. And that is, it may seem far-fetched, but I do believe that is going to be a thing, because one of the only fundamental Maslow pyramid need that we haven't cracked it, which is one of the most important, which is housing, hasn't been cracked yet. It's still very much not affordable to buy a house. The whole banking industry was also built on that. So yes, a lot of resistance, a lot of actors in that industry, like realtors, real estate investors. So we're going to see lots of resistance, but ultimately the crazy ones are going to crack it, just like Elon cracked the electric car. He didn't made it affordable, right? But still he had tons of resistance from all these oil powerhouses that were resisting the change. But ultimately there's going to be the $500 house in less than, I mean, I said 10 years just to be a bit more conservative. I'm going to say 15. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, I mean they still have those like I don't know, where are they, like the box houses or something, where they're like fully mobile and they're very cheap and
Huh.
eco-friendly, things like that. So
Like a
I'm sure
tent.
they're gonna not a tent, but it's almost like a container, and they
Yeah.
build like a house in a container or something along those lines.
Yeah,
So
but
I
that's
you
still
know
very expensive, because you can, so for, I mean, I'm not sure if you're referring the full metal containers, but these cost like minimum $10,000. And for the same price, you can build something like that, the walls and all of that, to very similar price. The equation is, yeah, everyone's overcharging, right? And you're from Toronto, I'm from Quebec. Quebec, the main industry is real estate. If you want to make money in Quebec, it's real estate, it's construction. That's, if you
mhm.
scan the Quebec list of millionaires, that you'll see like a good 80% of that being made on that. And humans just overcharge. We're seeing Boston Dynamics develop quite quick. I Yeah, robots will do the job, and then the cost of energy will go to zero. So basically,
Mhm.
having a bot build your house will cost almost zero. Resources will be fetched by bots. And if these bots cost almost zero while just buying their hardware, then that is equal to a revolution. That is equal to a very cheap house. Then the last missing piece of that puzzle is government selling the terrains, right? So they still they still make an awful lot of money off that, plus on taxes. And you will see government try to fight for that, but governments are also losing powers more and more. They're realizing that they're not now becoming just like businesses, and they're competing against businesses ultimately. So yeah, a couple of controversial points here.
Definitely. Like I think overall, like like because we're entrepreneurs, I feel like it really suits our lifestyle of having the flexibility. Like I don't want to be doing maintenance on the house. Like I like telling my landlord that hey, I need this fixed, and then I'll just come back the next day or something like that. And just even having the freedom to just leave, give a 60 days notice and go live in Mexico or wherever you'd like. So yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say that's a mainstream opinion, but I'm definitely not buying into the home ownership is mandatory type of narrative.
Nowadays, I'm a lot into basic income. Sam Altman recently, so he's the CEO founder of OpenAI, recently released that he's working on WorldCoin. I'm gonna have these folks on my podcast as well, and basically they're trying to authentify humans' identity, right? Because once you get AGI, you can get various fake identities. So it's gonna be like biometrics, right? And since bots are not going to catch up as quick as online AGI, well, it's still physical, right? It's me, so I can be authentified. And why they're doing that is that they plan to deploy AGI pretty soon, and that would create so much resources for the world that they could basically distribute free cash. One quick question for you: if there would be AGI, you know how socialist Canada is, and how much COVID shoots we got, free COVID money during the COVID. Would you take basic income if it exists?
I mean, like personally, sure. I don't know, like I'm not educated enough on this topic, but my initial instinct is if it is like where is it coming from? Is it going to be from a taxpayer's pocket? Things like that. Like when it comes to economic policies, like I would say I'm pretty conservative. Like I would rather just pay as minimal taxes as possible. But yeah, like I would just kind of have to understand more and get more sense behind the numbers of where that universal basic income is coming from.
Sure, it's a nice problem to send to your brain, and just to try to understand what would happen once UBI exists. So yeah, Martin, thank you so much for showing up today. Where can people find out more about you online?
You can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I believe it's just Martin Popiel, or visit moderncpafirm.com.